John 9:28 through 29. Maledixerunt ei et dixerunt, tu discipulus illius es, nos autem Mosi discipuli sumus, nos scimus quia Mosi locutus est Deus, hunc autem nescimus unde sit. They reviled him, and they said, You are that man's disciple. We, however, are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses. We do not know, however, this man, where he comes from. In this whole chapter, the story of the man born blind and his interactions with Jesus, and then the Jewish leaders, we get lots of great samples of dialogue, both direct and indirect. Maledixerunt ei. They abused or reviled him. And this is a verb, maledico, that very frequently, almost always, takes the dative when it's being used this way. That is, it doesn't take an accusative object, it takes a dative object. They abused or reviled him, and they said, You are a disciple of that man or this man, Elius. But they're drawing a contrast here. Nos autem, and you can feel, I think, the real adversative force of autem here, right? Tu on the one hand, nos on the other. We on the other hand, and there's a direct contradiction here. We're not disciples of that man. We are disciples of Moses. Now, Hebrew loan words that go into Greek and then into Latin are going to be declined in ways that seem unpredictable and unfamiliar to you. Generally, it's not so much worth memorizing the different ways that particular names are declined, as much as it is worth developing a sense, contextually, of what must be the case here. So we can see from the parallel construction with Elius, this has got to be a genitive form of the name Moses. And even if you don't know that because you haven't memorized the paradigm, it doesn't really matter because you can tell from the structure of the sentence itself, this has got to be a genitive singular here. We are disciples of Moses. Similarly, in the next line, we know that God, who must be the subject of locutus est, has spoken or spoke what? Moses. To Moses has got to be what we have here, right? Again, just contextually. So don't be overly concerned again about memorizing a declension for the name Moses. It's almost always going to be crystal clear from context. Nos schimos quia, we know that, and again, this is the typical way that quia is used in the Vulgate and in late antique Latin in various places, in place of what we would expect in classical prose, for instance, the accusative infinitive construction. Nos schimos quia, we know that God spoke or has spoken, and notice these match in number and gender, the subject, Deus. God spoke to Moses. This guy, however, hunc autem, and here again I think is an adversative, a true adversative autem, this guy, we don't know. We don't know him. And specifically as a subset of the things we don't know about him, we don't know where he comes from. We don't know whence he is, literally. And this is a reported question, technically, or an indirect question, which is what brings about our use of the subjunctive here. We don't know where he's from.